So the big question coming out of the 4-hour block of AEW programming for Fyter Fest is, did Excalibur need to pee? Now you're saying, Simon, AEW pay-per-views are longer than this. Why did this come into your brain? I don't know. It's a weird show. Also, hello, my friends, and welcome to Ups and Downs. Listen, I'm just taking the intro and I'm throwing it over there because we have so much to get through. It's a little bit long for my tastes, but also I love the fact we do live in this crazy wrestling world. Let's give the good bits an up and the bad bits a down for AEW Dynamite. Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné were basically talking about food as well backstage, so I guess it did tie into our life admin. When out came Will Ospreay, because he wanted to say, listen, I have tried to get Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland on the same page, but I can't do it. I was like, well, you've been trying for a week. I think it needs more effort than that. To be fair though, AEW did show a bunch of clips with all of these guys now falling out because yes, William and Swerve had a little talk on Collision. When Ospreay turned his attention to Jon Moxley, he was like, listen, John, you keep saying how AEW isn't the show you want it to be. Well, why don't you piss off? And also, here's a bunch of names that have made AEW popular again, and you're not on that list. Like, Will, that's a little bit mean. That is why the Death Riders are a threat though, because they're standing in the way of this success. When he was like, so Swerve, if you can't see that, or you don't rank it on the importance meter, then maybe you're a threat too. And listen, Swerve Strickland, you're my brother. I've known you for the last 12 years, and I would take a bullet for you, but I would take a bullet for AEW first. And listen, this was a great segment, and this storyline does feel top tier, but in my head, I was like, William, definitely never do that. If you jump in the way of an AEW sign and take a bullet while Swerve gets absolutely destroyed, people are not going to side with you. He then challenged Swerve Strickland to a match next week, because of course the best way to get somebody to see your opinion is to kick the crap out of them. But right now, Will Ospreay does feel like he's a main event player, and we're getting Swerve versus Ospreay just on random television. But it's not random, because again, it ties into everything that has happened over the last 10 days. This is just good stuff. It then got weird because out walked the crew. Even Ospreay was like, who the flub is this? And Action Andretti was apologizing, although I don't think he meant it at all. When Lio Rush started to talk about plane travel and how he may be tired because he just came back from Japan. I was like, all right, that's nice to know. But essentially, this ended with Will Ospreay challenging Lio Rush, and we're going to get that later too. So thank goodness this did go down, otherwise we wouldn't have enough matches for the show. Of course, it also feels like maybe we are including them more because they are going to be the dudes that Ricochet hires for his new group. Though of course they should be bald men and I should be part of that. But I am going to give it an up. The story for the AEW World title, well, it's just become very compelling, and William does a good job telling it. Mark Briscoe was then explaining how he told his son last week, no, I didn't quit. That's why he needs to fight Jon Moxley right now. He then went to the ring, and it was a non-title match, but Mark Briscoe is so good because he wanted to teach his kid that some things are bigger than championships. When he passed out again, now this really made me laugh because I'm a terrible person, but now he has to go home and re-explain to his child, listen, I know what it looked like. Let me explain tapping out versus passing out, let's go. This was just excellent because of course it was, and one day, Mark Briscoe probably should be the world champion because out of everybody walking around in the sports entertainment landscape right now, he is just so easy to love, and you just want him to win. And when he hit the J Driller at the end of this, Moxie kicked out, well, the commentators told you nobody in AEW has ever done that before. So once again, my heart bled for him, but also it was a good job it was Jon Moxley doing this. I think we're about to turn him into the final boss, and Hangman's gonna stick him. Marina Shafir, of course, kept interfering, and at one point Briscoe went right into the ring post and he was bleeding like crazy. So this was smart as well, because anytime Mox is involved, the Death Riders are buzzing around buzz like bees, so you bet your ass Hangman is probably gonna need some friends, even though later on he told us he didn't need any friends. He's definitely going to change his mind. So once again, Mark Briscoe just fits this role so well. I mean, even though he loses, I still go, come on, Mark, you'll get them next time. Like I said, we are rebuilding the Death Riders here. I think mostly because they now have a good guy team to go against that does feel like a proper threat. I'm giving it an up. This is a very good start. We then saw Mercedes Moné heading to the ring because Toni Storm was going to team with Mina Shirakawa. And Mercedes actually had a full-course meal at ringside. Now, some people have got mad about this. And at the end of the match, Toni still joined her, so they were just eating food. But we have, 35 days until All In. You're telling me we can't throw in a little bit of goofy wrestling for life in there? You absolutely bet your ass we can. That really made me chuckle. They were also taking on the team of Julia Hart and Skye Blue, which is also interesting, because there is some rumors, I don't know where they come from, I think someone just made it up, that maybe we're going to get some women's tag team titles soon. Now, a brand new team was also born later on, so maybe this is true, and I personally wouldn't mind it at all, as long as once again we do have the duos, and they don't just vanish into the Phantom Zone. As long as you've got stories, let's do it. Storm also at one point let Shirakawa use her back to do a dive because it is 2025. That's when we cut to Mercedes Moné, and she was just taking selfies. And Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa are two more people. They have good chemistry. So if Toni ever did walk away from the AEW World title scene for a bit, well, you could probably have them be the tag team champions too, which is a pointless conversation because right now those belts don't even exist. Mina then got beaten up for a while when she got the hot tag to Toni Storm, who ran wild. This was hilarious because Shirakawa must have just gone to the corner and eaten a med pack, because within about 8 seconds she was back again. So what was the problem? Really though, this was just to allow them to hit all the double T moves, and there was German suplexes and hip attacks. When Toni Storm was like, Mercedes is eating some food, I'm going to apply the chicken wing. Blue Skye, is that her name? That's her name, Skye Blue. She had to tap out. There was a lot of submissions on this show. So yes, once again, I think this was just there, just maybe to tease the tag team stuff, and to just continually put Toni Storm in matches, which has become kind of her gimmick. But I just think even when they are doing the funny stuff, Mercedes and Toni together feels like something big is just around the corner, which it is. And I imagine it will be the Men's World Championship that does headline, but if they all of a sudden light a fire under the feud, which of course they will, dude, well, it could be a pick'em up. It was entertaining. Ospreay was then backstage about to do an interview when MJF found him, and he was all like, oh, hi, William. I think you should keep your nose out of this world title business, because deep down you know that if Hangman does win that belt, you're going to be in right trouble, because you can't beat him. So Will just went, don't be an idiot, you fool. You couldn't beat the cowboy on your best day. So essentially it became one big Hangman Adam Page loving. No problem with it. Now really, Maxwell just wants Strickland and Hangman to eat each other alive so he can swoop in. And because William wasn't playing ball, MJF just went, hey, how's your son? And Ospreay's face changed like thunder. We've all learned a lesson now. If you are going to approach Will and ask him about his boy, let him know that it's not a threat. Maybe MJF was being legit here. Will Ospreay didn't want to hear it. The coolest thing about it, though, is that the Hurt Syndicate then walked right in. And MJF just had the best look on his face. He now feels like he can do whatever he wants because he does have the best backup of all time. This story has been so damn good, and kudos to AEW for being so patient with it. I thought the Hurt Syndicate would have turned on Max by now. Instead, they're doing his every bidding. They then walk to the ring, and listen, I don't want Bobby Lashley to destroy me, but I may need to ring lawyer Mark Sterling, because MVP was all like, listen, I know we're in Denver, which is where Bob used to live, but he moved to Texas. So Lashley, what do you think about Denver now? And, you know, Bobby Lashley did that thing again, when he is wiggling his finger or his thumb around, and he pointed in the downwards direction. Now listen, there's only one bald guy that wiggles his finger around to give wrestling opinions, and that's me. Same time, I'm not really gonna do anything about it physically because Bobby Lashley would eat me alive, which is why I'm going to give Mark Sterling a call. MVP then called Bob and Shelton Benjamin the best tag team champions ever. Listen, this is All Elite Wrestling, where the best wrestle, but where are the challenges? They do not exist, and in fact, all you fans have imagined them in your minds. I was like, is that true? I didn't know that, maybe I need help. MJF then took over and essentially said he's gonna start wrestling more in order to get back to that world championship. And he's going to start with Mystico, because of course AEW have those Mexican shows coming up, which is when he was all like America rules and Mexico doesn't rule, and when I went to Arena Mexico I sold the place out. So essentially I am great, he is not, and I'm going to whoop his ass. He also mentioned the fact he's a megastar now because he is going to be in Happy Gilmore too, and both him and Becky Lynch are in the trailer if you care. When out came, of all people, Komander with a K, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight. And Speedball's all like, we'll challenge you for your tag team championships. We're great. And do you know what Umvuk did? He literally went, no. I mean, talk about mugging someone off. He essentially told them they were going to have to earn it first, and it was a little bit strange because they were going to have a trios match. And I was like, if you win a trios match, does that count toward your tag team stats? I do not know, although they did win, and they are essentially going to get at least an opportunity, so I guess we found out. What? I don't know. So it is a game of two halves for me, because everything with the Hurt Syndicate and MJF is so damn good, especially because they have fingers in so many pies. So yes, Bobby, I take my finger and I point in the upwards direction. And while I am super down for Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight getting involved here, it's just kind of fallen into a pattern where people walk out and they're like, well, we'll challenge you. MVP, it's like, you're absolute goobers, we have no interest. And then you get the match, but deep down, we don't believe the Hurt Syndicate are going to lose. Now actually, as you're about to find out, we are going to add a little something extra here. But I think at least one team needs to come out and just punch the Hurt Syndicate right in the face and be like, yeah, we're violent. So I'm going to give it a down, even though I should wait and see. I can't get rid of it, man. These things pop in my brain. I think we just need to spice things up a little bit. We shall see. Either way, though, these three were taking on the Beast Mortis, Roosh, and Dralistico. So you know the deal. It was AEW party match time. It was just so damn fun. What I really liked is that Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight especially were given a chance to shine. And Kevin Knight has just come back from New Japan. So it's like, oh my gosh, he went out there and now he's come back even better. And we did this with Nick Wayne later too. That's smart booking. Bad guys wanted a triple powerbomb at one point, but instead got triple drop kicked by the good guys. But Mike Bailey looked at the calendar and he went, I forgot it's 2025. I better go do a dive. Mortis was so mad about this though. He quite literally, I mean not literally at all, killed Mike Bailey with this lariat, which is when Kevin Knight was like, well, he's my tag team partner, now I have to get involved, and he did. So did Komander. He was doing his walking the rope stuff and just looking pretty damn cool. And the whole time trolling us going, hee hee hee, Komander is spelt with a C, but I spelt mine with a K. It was nice to hit the UFO and Dralistico as well to get the 1, 2, 3. And I know this isn't going to be for everybody, but man, it was entertaining. And once again, whoever went, guys, Kevin just came back from New Japan. We should probably make sure he gets to win on television. That was a very good idea. And listen, you're not going to watch all 4 hours, I imagine. But if you have 10 minutes today and you want to pick and choose, it's probably going to be on the list up. Now, yes, this is when the Hurt Syndicate did come back out and essentially said, oh, hey, we can do a trios match next week with MJF being the third guy. And once again, the good guys were able to whip their ass. So we will wait and see. We're at a sliding doors moment here. This could actually be a situation where the Hurt Syndicate do lose, maybe because Maxwell Jacob Friedman screws up, which would help that story and also ensure the Hurt Syndicate lose, even though they won't lose. So I may have egg on my face, but that's fine, it's full of protein. Let's say my catchphrase, we wait and see. The Paragon and Daniel Garcia then told us, we don't like the Don Callis family. Like, yeah, well, thanks for that. What's the next line? Water is wet, we get it. They are going to be taking them on in the main event later, though. Daniel Garcia was all like, man, I want loads of things in my life, but nothing more than beating up the Callis family. And the whole time he was looking at that TNT Championship, if I was Adam Cole, I'd be like, do you really want to be in this? And this is totally insane behavior. I can't trust you. And then I would have kicked him in the balls. Now that happened, and let's face it, I wouldn't have done it anyway. When the Patriarchy were back on TV, because yes, as we already talked about, Nick Wayne has come back for Best of the Super Juniors, and Christian was all like, listen, you did really good. You had 14 matches in 22 days, or whatever it was, but did you win? No. So you suck, and now you have to defend the ROH TV title in a 4-way. Nick must have been like, fake dad, I hate you. That's what it's all about to be a champion, though, when Christian insinuated that he would like to, go lay down and do the sideways shuffle with Mother Wayne, but he should watch this match instead. Don't get mad at me, that's what he said. I just want to give some props to Max Caster after this too, because he came out to do his best wrestler alive challenge thingamajig. Listen, this really, on one hand, has been going on way too long, and he's already been beaten by Anthony Bowens, which was the big comeback to end that tag team, but somehow he's still making it work. I find it very entertaining, I find it very funny. At one point he rhymed live with alive, and even Excalibur went, well, that's just the worst rhyming I've ever heard. This stuff is really well thought out. If he does come to the UK and do the challenge, I'll accept. I'll probably be the first person to lose. Such is life. It was Powerhouse Hobbs though, even though Max Caster did poke him in the eye. I've totally forgot about my counter, but it's like on 6 or something like that. Powerhouse just came back with this death spine buster. He crushed Max Caster, and of course he beat him in around about 4 seconds. So now I have no idea where this is going, but actually, if it is just gonna be random people coming out and Max Caster makes me laugh beforehand, well, what is life about, my friends? It's about being sports entertained. I honestly think I could give this an up for the rest of my life. I don't know what you would do to make it bad. And then next, yes, it was the 4-way for the international title between Kenny Omega, Brody King, Claudio Castagnoli, and Mascara Dorada. I don't know what you want me to do here. Somehow, it was a sprint, but it also went 20 minutes. It was 2 + 2 = potato. It doesn't make any sense. Kenny Omega still feels like the biggest star ever. Claudio Castagnoli is horrendously underrated. Brody King needs to win more matches and be pushed. And as for Dorada, he was just like, oh, you think you're flippy, do you? I'll flip you all. This was flubbing brilliant. I mean, not only did you have the dives, because it is 2025, but Claudio and Brody were being big men, slapping man meat. At one point, Dorada got thrown so far into the audience I thought he was dead. When Brody King was going to do his, I'm going to crush you, Claudio, to barricade, Dorada was back and he jumped off the thing, so it just became wrestling tennis, and you needed binoculars here, because you never knew what was going to be next or where it was going to come from. I mean, after that, Kenny went, ha-ha, Terminator dive, once again 2025. Omega also dropped people on the floor with snapdragons when Claudio Castagnoli was giving people Sagat uppercuts. And after Omega got some V-triggers, it looked like he was going to try and one-winged Angel Brody King, which would have been absolutely terrifying. As soon as they were out of that, everybody was back. We did it again, like Britney Spears. You go, I go, he goes, then somebody else goes, we'll all fall down like Humpty Dumpty, and then we'll all get back up again, and we'll do it so effortlessly it will never make any sense. It was then V-triggers versus Claudio's lariats, as Dorado was like, watch my head, sis, it's the fastest thing you've ever seen in the world, when Brody King was just crushing people. And I think we need to do a feud between Brody and Claudio. Anytime they were together, well, it was just good stuff. The only problem was eventually Mascara Dorado was like, man, these hurricanes are really working for me. I think I should do 47,622. And Kenny Omega was like, yeah, I'm not into that. And he grabbed him, he hit the one-wheel Angel, he got the 1, 2, 3. He is still your champion. I'm gonna be a nerd today and watch this twice. That's how good it was, especially because afterwards, Okada came out, they got into it, he thumped Kenny in the tum-tum because he has a bad stomach area. And later on, we got the big announcement at AEW All In. It is gonna be title versus title, all on the line, Kenny Omega versus Okada. And I think we've been spoiled the last 5 years because we have had so many good wrestling from all the companies. If you were told somebody in 2018 you were getting this on US soil, we all would have lost our minds. So I'm going to decide to lose my mind. This is a mega match, and even if they do like an eighth of what they did before, it will be one of the matches of the year. I'm giving it an up. All of this was big time Charlie stuff. Ricochet then told us that he's not going to wrestle because he hates this town, but he is going to be scouting to recruit people for his new crew. I don't think he said crew here. When it was time for Ricochet versus Lio Rush, I'm just gonna be a nerd real quick. Because listen, I really like Lio Rush, and I actually think a proper feud between him and Will Ospreay could be super duper whooper good. And while there is a part of me, a big part too, that loves the fact we get these random matches, it's like watching an E-Fed, this is another one where I was like, man, we could have stretched it out at another time, because I bet they work really well together, which they did do. So that's just like a tiny Simon Miller down. But then they got into it. I mean, at one point, Lio Rush was so quick, Will Ospreay wasn't able to catch up with him. They were essentially playing cat and mouse, which means this was a Tom and Jerry match, and all my worlds are coming together. They were then trading cutters when Will got the Oz version, which we know is the best one, when of course Action Andretti was getting involved, and basically just tripping up Will Ospreay, because he's a massive dickhead, and he was out there with a friend. Apparently that's just what wrestlers do. Ospreay didn't care for that though, so he just threw them together, where once again they distracted the referee, and Action's big plan, meaning they discussed this backstage, was to try and pass Lio Rush a chain. So they wanted attempted murder, but instead Lio Rush jumped into the Styles Clash. That looked so damn cool. Ospreay hit it, and he got the 1, 2, 3, and I'm never gonna get mad about that, because every now and then the Styles Clash has to win a contest. You don't want it to become the Blue Thunder Bomb, so it is getting an up, and this is another one. I would take this elongated to say the least, because Lio Rush is damn good. Well, Will Ospreay, whether you like it or not, is one of the best in the world. Crew made sure to attack afterwards because they are bad guys on a wrestling show. When of all people, Hangman Adam Page came out to make the save, and he even cut a promo going, listen, Will, you have proven to me that you will have my back, so now I've got yours. But at All In, do I need any buddies to help me win that AEW World title? No, I do not. He's gonna regret that. He also made it very clear he doesn't need the help of the worst man on the planet. And Hangman even said here, I promise you, I will never accept assistance from that guy. And because he is now a massive babyface, I don't think he can go back on that promise. So if Swerve does help, well, it's gonna be in the face of what Page wants. That may kickstart the feud again. John Moxley then teleported in, which does make sense because that is the match we are getting. And the Death Riders circled as well. So Will's like, don't worry, Mr. Cowboy. I have a chair and you have a chair. And this is when the Riders of Death did back off, but I also think this was smart because yes, once again, you want to start selling the main event as it is going to be on a poster. But it was also like, we need chairs just in order to be balanced here, but we're also a couple of dudes down and we need one, Swerve, but he ain't going to be here right now. And John knows this. I don't know, you have to see it to make it make sense. That was a bit of gibberish, but it felt bigger than the sum of its parts, and that's what you want for a potential main event. It also feels like there is jeopardy here, because while a huge part of me does think Hangman is going to win, I am not sure. So yeah, everybody here has done great work, and having Swerve Strickland as the outlier that could screw the good guys for all we know, I'm giving it an up. It's very, very compelling. Don Callis then promised that Carl Fletcher was going to finish the job this week when he's in the ring with Adam Cole. And if you did watch 7 days ago, you know how crazy that is. When Hechicero walked in, because he's going to be teaming with the Don Callis family, Carl Fletcher's face was the funniest thing on the show? I guess he was pretty psyched. When FTR and Stokely Hathaway then just continued to be the best heels, they were taking on Atlantis Jr. and Templario, and I think because they were gonna lose, Cash and Dax were like, listen, we are going to sell our asses off for you. At one point, Dax was kissing their boots, being like, I'm scared heel. Then he tried to attack them, and he still got his ass whipped. Cash did blind tag in at one point, and they were going to give Atlantis the Shatter Machine, but of course, Templario made the save when they just started going dive crazy. So Harwood was like, well, I'm going to teach you a lesson here. And he crotched him right in the penis. I mean, he got him right in the dick. Templario then made sure he saved Atlantis, though, because his groin was hurting. When, this is another reason I love FTR matches, because what is old is new again, he was going to suplex Cash Wheeler back into the ring, Templario that is, when Dax was like, well, no one's looking at me, and he tripped the foot, he didn't really hold on to it, so it wasn't really the Ultimate Warrior Rick Rude WrestleMania finish, but that was the inspiration, I suppose, and Templario was like, well, because that happened, it feels like an anvil fell on me. 1, 2, 3, FTR win. As Stokely Hathaway said, they remain the winningest team. I can't even say it. They remain the winningest. It's a hard word to say. They win a lot. They are the winningest team in AEW. I know he said it before, but it makes me laugh. They were getting so much heat as well. Dax like, you know what? You don't get to hear us talk, and they walked off. They were even mugging off the fans as they did go to the back. This was an inspired turn. They feel totally refreshed, and eventually they're going to have to be back in the AEW tag title scene. Going back to what we talked about, I believe that they could beat the Hurt Syndicate. That's a very interesting matchup. Here it comes as well. I had to say it. Eventually, at some point, you're going to get mad at me, which is totally cool. That's what the comments are for. But it was around this point where it hit me. I thought to myself, this show is just too long. Like, I was having a good time, but I think a normal person would have taken a break. And as a one-off, yes, it's very, very novel and it's very, very fun, but I am going to give it down. I just never need this much wrestling all at once. But it makes no difference. If you loved it and you can watch it, it's spaced out, it's going to be a totally different opinion. But as I always say, I'm going to be transparent, I'm going to be honest. So if it comes into my bald head, I'm going to say it. I've said it, let's move on. Because it was Los Outrunners and Bandido taking on Hechicero and the Don Callis family, or Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita, this was another match. And by this point, I suppose it had become Collision, because we changed the commentators as well. So it was party match number 2. Turbo and Truth had their lucha masks on as well, because they really liked Bandido. This really was another great back and forth. I think some people beforehand looked, man, it's going to be a glorified squash. It was not. At one point, the Outrunners were running wild. Of course they were. They've been doing it since 1986. Hechicero also killed Bandido because he caught him off a head scissors, I suppose, and powerbombed him into the floor. I was like, a lot of people are being thrown into concrete this evening. Can we please stop it? Even Don Callis was impressed when Floyd got the hot tag, I guess because he understands the 1980s are the best decade. When Takeshita returned fire with the Blue Thunderbomb, the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment. And did it work? Of course it doesn't. It never does. The back and forth between Bandido and Kyle Fletcher was so good too, we probably need to do that feud eventually. When Bandido got distracted by Hechicero, he just dove out the ring. It meant the Outrunners were actually in place to give the power elbow. But I think Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, like Predator, because they stopped that, and they kneed them in the face, they kicked them in the face, they hit a bunch of brain busters, they were down, they made the pin, the Outrunners lost, the Don Callis family won. Once again, Kyle Fletcher looked like he was about to orgasm. The interesting part, though, is as well, while of course they can be in singles action, here's another 2 dudes, Takeshita and Kyle, that could essentially be big players in the tag team scene. There's a lot to raise your eyebrow at here. But in terms of them as a duo, they are flipping good. So was this. We then got a video from the Street Fight Women's Tag match from last week, when we essentially told you Harley Cameron and Anna Jay are tough guys, and you should respect that. We cut to Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. They disagreed when they literally picked up Anna Jay, who had been beaten half to death. I was like, camera person, what are you doing? You agreed to film it like this with a, oh my gosh, shock twist? You should be fired. They quite literally dragged Anna to the ring as well, but this was super nice because yes, apparently Harley Cameron is taking some much deserved time off, so who made the save? And their big return to AEW, it was Ty Mello. She got a great pop. This was super duper nice. It also goes back to our women's tag team argument because there's another pairing we have thrown together, though we have to see how they get on against Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne, because usually those two kind of run through people. But man, I always like to look on the human side, and Ty Mello being back is getting an up. I mean, it's just lovely. Anthony Bowens then told us in the back it is Pride Month, so it's also going to be the Pride of Pro Wrestling Month, because that is his gimmick. Don't forget that's really important, because representation matters. He then challenged Kyle Fletcher for next week. Well, that's interesting. Where did that come from? And Anthony, you're probably going to lose. Ricochet then came out to do commentary, which did make sense because he told us he was scouting, and we were about to have our ROH TV title four-way. So there was AR Fox, Lee Johnson, Sammy Guevara, and Nick Wayne. And listen, all those three guys were really good, but the focus was on Nicholas. I don't want to repeat myself, but it kind of feels like he stepped back into this role, a bigger star, given that we are talking about, wow, he went to New Japan and did well. And I'm going to have to guess at All In, it will be Christian Cage versus Nick Wayne. So it's time, people. We made it. After 472 years. AR Fox also hit a big old dive towards the end of this because 2025, and he was like, oh my gosh, I can get the swanton. Totally wrong. Nick Wayne got the knees up and he hit the prodigy driver, I think it's called, for the 1, 2, 3. And yes, afterwards, Christian gave him his belt. It was like, ha ha, you got him, son. So probably in a couple of weeks, Nick Wayne is going to punch his fake dad in the face. And that'll be satisfying. We've all wanted to punch a fake person eventually. Thekla versus Lady Frost was next, and I am going to give it a quick down. Where the flub was Jamie Hayter. And I know the commentary talked about this, and this is the way that AEW decided to book it, but given that she did lose at Double or Nothing, and she only kind of got like punched in the face last week, I think she needed to come back here and get a little bit of heat, especially because when it is Thekla, taking on Jamie Hayter, Jamie's probably going to have to lose that, because Thekla has just debuted. I don't know, man. It just feels a little bit like a shimmery situation. I don't even know what that means. Thekla was taking on Lady Frost though, so of course she beat her pretty quickly. And I believe her choke finish is called the death choke, or the choke death, so I'm a big fan of that. And she did her Bray Wyatt spider walk thing. Listen, I got no problem with that, especially because she does it effortlessly. And it does make me feel a little bit oogly boogly. Queen Eminata came out afterwards because Thekla is a bad guy on a TV show and was beating up Lady Frost, and even said afterwards, do you know what I do to spiders? I step on them. So we're taking that quite literally. And of course, Thekla will win that as I continue to pronounce her name about 47,622 ways. And I think she's pretty good. Again, I'm learning on the job here. But all the things going on around it, well, it's still my catchphrase. I have to wait and see. But it's definitely a good signing. Just think maybe we needed a bit more. Still, though, it is pretty good to have somebody debut, take out a big star, and then probably get 2 wins back to back. So I'm going to give that an up when we got to our main event. This was the Paragon and Daniel Garcia taking on the Don Callis family, or the rest of them, which is Lance Archer, Josh Alexander, Rocky, and Trent. Now listen, given this was the end of the collision, this was essentially party match number 3, and that's why I've got to shout out this crowd. They were still pretty damn rowdy, all things considered. Like if the camera cut to someone, they were just asleep in the crowd, I wouldn't even have thought they were having a bad time. It's just like anything. You give that energy, eventually your brain is going to tap out. This was really solid stuff though, and of course it ended with the tag clacks when everybody ran in. At one point, Adam Cole thought he was going to do well, but Trent took him out. When Trent just posed for around about 47 years. Surprise, surprise, he got super kicked right in the face. Cole then went for Panama Sunrise, but that didn't work, so Trent went for a pile driver. That didn't work either. When Rocky Romero, he was so excited. He thought he saw an opening. He too got hit with a kick that was super. He fell to his knees. So Adam Cole exposed his knee, he lowered the boom, and he got the 1, 2, 3. That makes sense because he is the TNT champion. And even though Danny Garcia was like dancing in the general direction of Don Callis to the end of this, you know deep down he wants another shot at Adam Cole. As a quick aside, I would have had Josh Alexander a little bit more involved in the finish and make it like he was going to win. See, he just has not got enough pins. When, yes, out came Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. Kyle was looking at Adam and Adam was looking at Kyle. And I really hope we build this to All In and we get some good promo stuff. We could absolutely make this feel like a big deal. Just please don't do that apron bump ever again because it was the scariest thing ever. So I am going to give it an up. Which brings us to the end of the very rough ups and downs. But you don't need 47 minutes of me talking as I continue to go back to the number 47. But it was good. And I love the wrestling world we are living in. You can say whatever you want about Tony Khan, but he clearly loves this stuff and it comes through the TV. I think that's wonderful. And he's also just put Kenny Omega versus Okada for All In. So I have no notes. I'm giving it an up. Pro wrestling is flipping cool. Now, of course, please do leave me a comment below and let me know how wrong I am and your thoughts about the longest AEW show ever on television, at least. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is ups and downs for Raw, so you can get my take on WWE as well. And now, let's rest, my friends. We have made it. I'll see you soon.